We was talking about after Biggie got and how nobody from Bad Boy busted when Biggie got
especially buying cars. I just want to go home. I just want to be home.
Now, if people tell you they're not going to a party and it's supposed to be the lit party of the century, you see Mase didn't show up at the party because he knew something too.
I wasn't getting for Mase. I was Puff bodyguard. You see who got out of Cali, right? Don't laugh and joke.
Out of that situation because everybody that he came with there to LA
began as a few jokes on a podcast quickly turned into something no one expected. When Mase and Camron revisited one of hip-hop's most painful moments, the assassination of the notorious B.I.G., Gene Deal responded in a way that immediately shifted the atmosphere. This wasn't internet banter or playful debate. His words carried real weight. The reaction rippled through the culture, splitting fans, raising tensions, and reminding everyone that some chapters in hip-hop history are still raw and unresolved. Emotions are running high, opinions are divided, and now the entire culture is watching closely. Because this moment isn't just about a podcast, it may permanently change how hip-hop confronts its past.
Damn. These clowns out here was gonna go out there and make videos.
I just want my blanket. I just want your blanket.
Oh, Gene Deal was crying for the blanket. Gene Deal was this, that, and the. Gene Deal was this, that, and the third.
You gotta get out of here. I didn't sing too much. Niggas can't.
Should I laugh about the fact that you wanted that #1 spot so bad? You didn't tell Big.
Yeah, so you got Biggie passed away, security not busting their hammer, Puff get on a private jet, everybody going, and Mase figured his way to get out of here. So we was talking about, he said, Cam,
I heard some things and I saw some things that was disturbing to me. That somebody sent me the video, I looked at it, and it was Cam and Mase, and here they go laughing again about the security the night Big lost.
What started as lighthearted podcast banter between Mase and Camron quickly turned serious, and hip-hop fans felt the shift almost instantly. One moment sounded like jokes and casual storytelling. The next felt deeply personal. As clips spread online, it became clear this wasn't just another viral exchange. It was reopening wounds connected to one of the most painful moments in hip-hop history, and people were no longer laughing.
Now the content creators who went out there and they start running off by their mouth trying to make a show, I bet you wouldn't say them. But Mase knew the whole situation. Mase knew that it's no way possible that I was able, being sideways in the car, because Puff.
During their conversation, Mase and Camron began revisiting the night the notorious B.I.G. was assassinated. What started as casual questions about who attended events that night and who didn't quickly became more pointed. Mase explained he stayed back at the hotel instead of going out, and the back and forth grew tense. The tone shifted from joking to confrontational as questions turned into implied accusations, especially surrounding security decisions and what should have happened in the aftermath of Biggie's death.
Now, if people tell you they're not going to a party and it's supposed to be the lit party of the century, you see Mase didn't show up at the party because he knew something too. And where I could say Mase knew something because the people out in California, when Mase went to basketball game, they told him, we want Puff and we want Big.
What unsettled listeners wasn't only what was said, but how casually it was delivered. Camron pressed further, questioning why security didn't respond aggressively that night, implying ammunition was present and asking why no one fired back. At that moment, the tension was unmistakable. This was no longer playful nostalgia. It was reopening wounds that never truly healed. The conversation grew sharper when Cam brought up moments from Mase's past, framing old situations as evidence that certain decisions didn't make sense. The exchange felt messy and unresolved, loaded with years of unspoken frustration. What began as humor had crossed into deeply sensitive territory, touching trauma that was never meant to be entertainment.
One there. So you got Biggie passed away, security not busting their hammer, Puff get on a private jet, everybody going, and Mase figured his way to get out of here. So we was talking about, he said, Cam, that's why you just see me run around with nobody.
Once the clips hit social media, the reaction was immediate. The laughter stopped, replaced by discomfort and serious questions about whether certain lines should ever be crossed. That's when Gene Deal entered the conversation and everything changed.
And it was Cam and Mase, and here they go laughing again about the security the night Big lost his life, which was disturbing to me, bro. And the reason why it was disturbing with me because I was there.
As Biggie's longtime friend and former security, Gene Deal didn't view the clips as harmless podcast chatter. To him, it sounded like his name and Biggie's legacy were being treated casually. What some listeners heard as edgy humor felt deeply disrespectful to someone who lived through that night and carried its weight for decades. Gene's response shifted the entire energy. There were no jokes or sarcasm, only seriousness and emotion. Once people heard him speak, it became clear this was no longer about viral content. It was about respect, history, and real trauma being pulled into casual conversation.
What do you do if you're a security crime behind the car?
Damn.
I just want my blanket. I just want your blanket. You gotta get out of here. I didn't sing too much. You just can't tell me.
That's when the internet split down the middle. Some fans defended Mase and Camron, saying they were simply speaking freely the way they always have. Others pushed back hard, arguing that certain moments in hip-hop history aren't up for jokes, especially from people who weren't living inside the chaos when it happened.
Did you make the right decision leaving rap?
I did. Everything now that we see playing out was all the things I escaped. The car, the shine, the loon, Puff Daddy, the Craig Mack,
Biggie Smalls.
the Biggie Smalls. So even though I made those decisions and it cost me money, that's why I got what they gave me the money back.
What began as casual podcast chatter quickly turned into a moment of reckoning. The real question stopped being about who said what, and shifted to whether this tension would end here, or grow into something much bigger. It became clear this wasn't just jokes or throwback talk anymore. The energy felt heavy, emotional, like years of unresolved pain rising to the surface in real time. It felt less like conversation and more like reopening a wound that never truly healed. On their show, Mase and Camron were doing what they've always done, joking, reminiscing, speaking freely. But this time the topic carried real weight. They started revisiting the night the notorious B.I.G. was assassinated, questioning where people were and what actions were taken once the news broke. Mase explained that he was in a hotel room at the time, not out at a party. That detail shifted everything. Camron began pressing him about what he did after hearing Biggie had been killed, and the tone changed from reflection to interrogation. At that moment, listeners could feel the tension settle in.
Talking about after Biggie got and how nobody from Bad Boy bust they when Biggie got
Just crying behind cars. I just want to go home. I just want to be home.
Right.
What do you do if you're a security crying behind the car?
These clowns out here was going to go out there and make videos.
I just want my blanket.
As the discussion continued, Mase described being trapped in his hotel room, saying the hallways were filled with gang members and it wasn't safe to leave. He claimed the situation became so intense that law enforcement eventually had to escort him out. To some, the exchange sounded like edgy storytelling, but to many listeners, it felt reckless. The questions no longer came across as curiosity. They sounded like blame, especially once the focus shifted toward Gene Deal and what he supposedly should have done that night.
They let Stevie J and Mase know we want Puff and we want Big. Mase felt like he was safe, laying down there, throwing up West Coast signs with them. Mase came back from that game. He let me know, and he let Puff know that he was good. They wanted Puff and Big. He told me he told Puff. He never mentioned a damn thing to Big.
This is the part many people needed to understand. Gene Deal isn't just a name tied to old headlines. He was Biggie's close friend and longtime security. He lived through that night and survived it. He's carried that weight for decades. So when he heard people casually revisiting it, he didn't hear jokes, he heard disrespect.
I'm better off by myself. It's not funny.
Yeah, when they go, cow, cow. Yeah. You know, you by yourself. Everybody trying to make it home.
Yeah.
Especially kids crying behind cars. I just want to go home. I just want to be home.
Right. But that's part.
Gene didn't hesitate to respond. He made it clear that speaking recklessly for views and laughs has real consequences. He criticized grown men speculating about bad boy security and replaying traumatic events like entertainment. Almost immediately, his name was twisted online, mocked, and buried under false narratives, only making the situation more volatile.
For the blanket, Gene Deal was this, that, and the Gene Deal was this, that, and the third.
You gotta get out of here. I didn't sing too much. Can't tell me nothing.
Now the content creators who went out there and they start running off by their mouth trying to make a show, I bet you wouldn't see them clowns doing that.
That's why when they be talking tough, I said, man, just say it.
That's when Gene Deal took things further and the mood shifted completely. He made it clear that treating his name recklessly wasn't something he would ever overlook. His message wasn't loud or theatrical, but it carried intensity. Gene reminded listeners that he had personally warned Biggie that going out that night was dangerous, that lives were at risk, and that some moments in hip-hop history were never meant to become punchlines years later. At that point, the laughter stopped. This was no longer about podcast clips or viral moments. It became about real consequences and real trauma that never faded. As the clip spread online, Gene was quickly pulled into the spotlight. People tagged him constantly, flooding his messages and waiting to see how he would respond. When he finally did, the tone was unmistakable. There were no jokes, no sarcasm, no attempts to soften his words. Gene made it clear that his name, and especially Biggie's, was not something to play with. That night changed his life forever, and revisiting it casually crossed a line. Anyone watching could feel the shift. What once looked like entertainment had turned into something deeply personal, serious, and impossible to walk back.
I'm never gonna be in this position.
I just want to go home and
I just want to be under my blanket.
What stood out most was how calm yet heavy Gene's response was. He didn't yell or chase attention. Instead, he spoke with the certainty of someone who lived through the moment being debated. Addressing Mase directly, he made it clear that public words should be stood on fully because this wasn't just podcast content to him, it was real life. Gene then walked listeners through what actually happened that night, pushing back against the idea that he could have reacted differently. He explained that everything unfolded in seconds. The car had already crossed the light when the first shots rang out and the driver immediately sped off. Chaos took over instantly. Gene recalled yelling at the driver, frustrated and panicked, because information they had suggested someone was pointing a gun at Biggie. From his perspective, there was no pause and no chance for a dramatic, heroic response. He also questioned parts of the story that never added up to him. One example that stuck with him involved claims about someone being in a hotel room with Brandy while also saying Brandy was calling them to leave and come to the party. To Gene, that contradiction suggested parts of the narrative had been reshaped over time. He went even deeper, explaining the physical layout of the car. Puff's seat was pushed far back, forcing Gene into an awkward position. When shots were fired, Puff ducked, Gene moved to react, and the car took off. There was no clean angle, no clear target, and no opportunity to fire back the way people casually suggested years later. To Gene, those questions ignored how fast and chaotic the moment truly was.
But Mase knew the whole situation. Mase knew that it's no way possible that I was able, being sideways in the car, because Puff, when I got in the car, Puff had put his seat back. Now I'm sideways in the car like this, and I'm cussing him out like, yo, man, what the f is you doing? Why you got your seat back like this? We hear this, pow! Puff put his head down. I go to open the door. So he knew the whole story. What I supposed to do? Put my when it just starts like this? when the car had already turned the corner, it came out of parking space. So he knew the story, bruh. He was trying to just divert the attention of, well, why security? So ask security. Ask big security. Ask Paul. Ask the LA police. The LAPD officer that was right there. They was right behind. Paul was outside the car. Why didn't they?
Gene also made it clear that others knew the full story. Conversations had already taken place, and actions were taken afterward, including attempts to pursue the shooter. From his perspective, focusing solely on him felt like a diversion. He questioned why certain warnings weren't shared more widely and why accountability skipped over other key figures from that night.
Well, it was disturbing with me because I was there and I know exactly what happened. Now, the reason I'm speaking on this and you allow me to speak on this on your platform is that because when people hear something about bad boy security, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was either Big Gene, Wolf, Paul. They had people that was behind the scenes, but the people out front was Big Gene, Wolf, and Paul. Myself, Wolf, and Paul. So when Mase and Cam are telling these stories of what happened, they are leaving.
Toward the end of his message, Gene reflected on his age and mindset at the time. He didn't claim perfection. He admitted he was young and reckless back then. What he rejected completely was the idea that he wasn't willing to protect the people he worked for. Gene made it clear that if the situation had truly required it, he would not have hesitated. He emphasized that he never served as security for anyone he wasn't prepared to risk his life for. That final statement changed the tone entirely. This was no longer about podcast jokes or viral clips. It became painfully clear that real trauma was being dragged back into the spotlight. Once Gene said his piece, the conversation shifted fast from entertainment to reality.
And three, speaking of Mase, played a big part in the whole situation. So, because Mase want to laugh and lie about the situation, let's get into it, bro. I want to get into this. I want to tell you that Mase had a duty and an obligation to his label mate, the notorious B.I.G., Christopher Latour Wallace. Mase had a duty as a label mate to tell Chris, these dudes want you.
What unsettled people most wasn't just what Gene said, but how he said it. There was no clout chasing, no attempt to turn the moment into content. It sounded like someone who had reached a limit after years of carrying unresolved pain. Gene made it clear that joking about real trauma doesn't stay online. It creates real tension in real life. That's when many viewers realized this situation had crossed out of entertainment entirely. Camron hasn't fully addressed Gene's warning yet, and while he's known for confidence and sharp responses, this feels different. This isn't a rap battle or playful back and forth. It's tied to loss, history, and unanswered questions. As expected, the culture split. Some criticized the chase for viral moments while others defended free speech. But intent doesn't erase impact, and once that line was crossed, things escalated quickly.
I wasn't getting a Mase. I was Puff bodyguard. You see who got out of Cali, right? Don't laugh and joke when you didn't do what you were supposed to do for your label mate. Should I laugh about the fact that you wanted that #1 spot so bad? You didn't tell Big. They need to stop playing, bro. This is real life. But this internet will have the fake looking real and the real looking fake.
Timing plays a major role in why this hit so hard. Hip-hop is already in a sensitive moment when it comes to legacy, respect, and accountability. Old stories, jokes, and behaviors are being re-examined with a sharper lens. So when something like this happens now, it lands differently than it would have years ago. Gene Deal's message tapped into a larger conversation about who gets to joke about certain moments, and what the real cost of those jokes can be. Right now, no one knows how this ends. Will Mase respond directly, Will Camron come back with humor or switch to a more serious tone, or will things cool down before they spiral further? That part is still unfolding. But one thing is already clear. Gene made it known that he's not someone to play with, especially when Biggie's name is involved. This situation is a reminder that hip-hop history isn't just stories or sound bites. It's real lives, real loss, and scars that never fully heal. When those scars are poked for laughs, reactions are inevitable. The internet might thrive on drama, but this moment feels different. It crossed from viral entertainment into dangerous territory. So now the question is simple but heavy. Did this conversation go too far, or was Gene right to draw a hard line? Should moments like this ever be joked about, or are some topics off limits forever? And how should Mase and Camron respond next? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more deep dives like this, make sure to subscribe.